How important is it for a startup to be vendor neutral, and why?
So we believe that startups should not maybe depend too much on the vendor neutrality aspect. So their focus should be more on their own team and also on the customer requirements, on how they can service customers better. If that could be possible if that is possible with the right mix of technology or vendors, that is good. But of course, so big vendors charge you big money. And there is always this question of vendor lock-in if you got bought into one technology. The pragmatic approach here would be to choose open source stack. You can choose maybe any platform, AWS, it could be Azure, it could be some XYZ platform. But if you stick to open source stacks, so it is easy to switch over data. You can maybe use the APIs. You can get the data, or you can use a variety of platforms like Linux OS, for example. Even the frameworks like Java, PHP, Perl, which are under open source licenses.
So that is interesting. But see, here's what I feel, right? As a startup, we are struggling with two things. You are struggling with getting your product out of the door, right? And in the other hand, you also want to make sure that you can switch, from, for example, if you are working on the Microsoft Azure, and if AWS has a feature which you really like and you want to move AWS, or you're working on AWS and Azure launches a feature and you really want to move back to them, that should be easy. But on the other hand, working on this stack layer sometimes can, take longer time, more effort compared to maybe going directly to these vendors, right? So is that trade-off? How do you decide, the trade-off between those?
So if you look at some of the modern frameworks, for example, people all the time, I have no use background. So it doesn't matter if you provide a EC2 or you provide a Stackspace or you provide a Azure. So you have your own development environment, in your in-house. So you get the same stack up and running in any cloud, irrespective of what platform you choose, what language you choose. And going with these open source solutions, that's where so if you look at maybe PaaS or maybe SaaS offerings, or even IaaS offerings of most of the providers, they're all open source based. Conveniently, it should be open source. It should be Linux, it could be LAMP stack, it could be Mean stack. Somewhere around when you choose to use it in open source.
Okay.
As a startup, I think your first goal is, let me get my software product out. Let me begin to get my customers. Let me scale up. And one of the variables in this decision is not, whether I'm vendor neutral to cloud. You can choose any of the cloud vendors. You should start your product software as a service that you want to host on that particular cloud. Get it out, get customers, scale up, and once you scale up, that's when you should really start thinking about many of these things. So when you start up, the first decision when you decide that you want to leverage cloud as a platform, is you'll have to make a choice of the various cloud vendors. And you will make a choice depending on the set of parameters that you have, and you have to do your own due diligence before you get onto it. And once you make that decision, I think you should stick on to that and just go ahead and start getting customers. At the end of the day, when you get more customers and get more revenue, that's the time you start thinking, should I now be on Amazon or Azure or somebody new that may come about it.
Okay. So just to add to it, I guess in a way you are vendor neutral because once you're on a cloud platform, you're kind of leveraging stacks from various vendors in any case, be the operating system, the application, database, NoSQL, and then just using the platform with REST and SOAP calls to leverage these so-called stacks within the cloud platform. And then I guess in a way, a lot of cloud providers, Amazon for example, we are moving to a case where most of the processes are reversible in a way, not so much the higher level PaaS platforms, but then let's say we have a service called as VM import export, right? Where if you have a virtual machine on premise, you can actually extract the VMDK image, put it on the cloud. But 2 years from now, you decide you want to put down all your images and go to another provider or run them in-house. The process is exactly reversible. So that's the process we are going through. So in a sense, you are kind of dealing with vendor neutral stacks anyway on the cloud and just delivering the platform with open standard API calls.
Just one.
Yes.
Summarizing it, I think startups should not basically concentrate on being vendor neutral. They should basically build their product and go ahead with it. Because anyhow, there's some or the other process which you can adapt to move from one particular service to the other service. So I think you should concentrate on building your product and marketing it rather than investing time in trying to be vendor neutral.
Yeah. So this is where, so probably people can look at the Lean Startup, by Eric Rimes. So it offers you, so you should concentrate only on your pivots, on certain points, on functionality. So not only stacks. You should focus more on your team and also in your dearest customers, not on stacks.